Hello, my friends. Okay, so we're gonna do our Thunder Shamanism Patreon video for this week. Again, thank you to everybody for number one, your patience. This has been easily the most chaotic time. Forget about difficult. It's just been very chaotic, and so it's been difficult for me to stay on. Um, stay on my schedule. So thank you for putting up with me for that. And thankfully, it's been almost a week since I really started feeling strong again. About a week ago, I started coming out of the really deep fatigue. I mean, I could barely move. I was so fatigued. And the deep sadness has moved. Of course, it's going to be a while before I'm, not grieving over that situation. But at least I'm able to get through the day, and I'm happy, and I'm functional. And so I appreciate all of your help. I think a lot of your positive thoughts for me have had a strong impact. So again, if I haven't, returned an email or a phone call and said thank you, just please know that I'm aware of everybody's wonderful, happy, supportive comments, and just know that I appreciate it. So, all right, so let's get to some work today. So we're going to talk about breath meditation. So I know that I've taught a lot of Qigong, probably too much, because it's probably been confusing because there's so many different Qigong techniques out there. Again, if you're new to this, or if you're just wanting to go back to basics, the most basic breath technique and meditation technique and Qigong technique all wrapped into one is the Huul breath meditation, which you can find easily on the thunderwizard.com YouTube channel. Huul breath. That is kind of the introductory technique, but it's also an initiatory technique. It initiates you into the Earth Mother Goddess, Mother Hulda, Mother Hole. So that is again, it's one of those techniques that if you practice for the rest of your life, even if you just did that, and there's a few of them, but that one, for example, if you, let's say, decided you wanted to master time and space, you wanted to master energy, you wanted to master your unconscious, you wanted to connect shamanically and travel out of the body, you wanted all that stuff. If you want to be a master wizard, magician, sorcerer, shaman, then do the Huul breath. Do it for, if you can do that for an hour a day, every day, if you can do it for 3 or 4 hours a day, and you do that year after year after year, you will achieve everything. Now, I'm not saying you have to do that. I don't do that. But I can tell you that, when it comes to mastering these meditations and being able to, gain whatever it is your power is, and, I could talk a little bit about that, which is, again, people have these specific ideas of what powers they want to gain. And my suggestion for that is I wouldn't focus on, trying to get one specific power, although, I've done it. I know people who have done it. What I can tell you is that if you open up your meridians and you fill your body with enough energy, especially if you're doing some kind of a deep shamanic meditation practice like the Huul breath, and you get to the point where you do that for every day consistently for a long period of time, your abilities are going to be activated, and they're going to be your abilities. Your ability might be healing through the hands. Your ability might be to leave the body and journey shamanically. Your ability might be to have psychic vision and be able to see into people. You might become an empath. You might already be all those things. But I think it's more helpful to go after the things that you are wired for in terms of your orlog. And again, when it comes to powers, people want to have this kind of power and that kind of power, and they think it means something. And it's fun and interesting and, maybe even spiritually, empowering and all that. But again, these are things that are coming up because of your karmic lessons. Again, if you become a psychic and you can see into people's minds or see into the future, in fact, I have I could call her an apprentice. She's not through this program, but she works with me fairly regularly, and she just realized she had this ability. If she just sits with somebody and stares at them, for a period of time, things will start to come to her, visions and smells, and she'll be able to. She's learning how to interpret it, but that's what I'm talking about. These kinds of powers, which are yours. People say don't go after them, and now that I'm on the other end of that, I say don't waste your time going after it. But having been there myself, I know that's it's a lot of fun to go after those things. It's I had a hell of a lot of fun going after my spirit fighting techniques, and now that I'm a single celibate monk again, I'm now starting to practice my spirit fighting sets, and so we'll see where that takes me now. But it's just fun to have the energy in my hands again like that. So anyway, I digress. I am here to talk about breath meditations and different kinds of what I call breath signatures. So let's talk about that. So I've got a list here. I would recommend, if you have a pen and a piece of paper, write it down, because I'm probably going to give you subcategories for each one of these, because this is an endless topic. But I figured I'd just get it out there again, and just get some basics. So if you got a pen and a piece of paper, write this down, and we'll start talking about it. So here's the list. Okay, so my apologies if you can't read that. I keep forgetting sometimes that when I put pictures up on this thing, the resolution gets hinky on me. So the first one is deep breathing, and then I think I put something to the effect of, let me actually get the actual notes up here. Deep breathing, I put default meditation breath. So this is the breath that I teach. The whole breath is a type of deep breathing, because that's all you're really doing, especially when you focus on the technique of being able to have the air come out of your nose and your mouth at the same time, where you're voicing the whole sound but not using your vocal cords. I talk about that in the some of the other videos about that. But again, that is the default method for going into trance, and that is a very advanced method. In fact, there's a lot of people running around who talk about element sounds, and they teach these in Chinese circles. They teach these things called the 5 element sounds, and so you'll hear people going ha ho, and they're sounding it out. But what they don't know is that comes from an even more ancient text, which if people look for it, they could find it, by a guy named Tao Hong Jing, which was about 2,000 years ago, I think. And he wrote down what he called 5 element breaths. And he tells very specifically how to breathe the sounds. You're making the sound without using your voice, and you're using both your mouth and your nose at the same time. And that is a very powerful method. And this is what I teach. This is how I teach you to do runes. Chanting runes out loud is fine too, mentally is fine, but when you use the whole breath technique to chant runes, paya, you really go deep into those things. I think that's what runes were meant to be. I got to talk about that. We won't get into that today. So the whole breath is a form of deep breathing, is what I'm trying to say here. So when I teach you how to close down, and you can't see it, but I'm putting my right hand over my left, over my navel, and you just breathe long and deep, and you breathe into the navel and exhale. You can exhale out the mouth or out the nose if you're doing the whole breath. I do that a lot, even when I'm doing a close down routine, or even if I'm doing a standing posture, I'll do the whole breath, just because it works so well to get me into my body and connect all the meridians and put me in that trance state. So when you're doing deep breathing meditation, again, it's ideally you want to be able to do it through the nose. So if you're like me, when I first started doing yoga, I was toxic. I had a lot of gunk, and so my nose was always stuffed up. So I had to clean up my diet, and I went on a really strict yogic diet to clean my to get all the toxins out of my system. And so now I can breathe. I also do a Grosan thing through my nose, which is like a neti pot, but it actually pumps it through there. So I'm always cleaning my nose out just so that I can not only sleep well, but because as you can see, I got tiny little nostrils. I don't know what that's all about. But so that I can breathe deeply. But anyway, a deep breath. So deep breathing, I'm sure you're aware of it, but let's just go over it again very simply. Let me give you some other techniques. What I do is I close my eyes. I don't necessarily close them all the way. They may be like 9/10 closed, but either way. And then what I do is I let my focus go up here, right up here to my third eye. And I breathe in through the nose. And then I exhale out the mouth. It took a long time because I did the whole breath. But you don't have to do that. You can just inhale very deeply and exhale out through the nose as well. But again, I prefer the whole breath exhalation method. That is probably the most profound breath technique that I teach. I've never discovered anything more profound and more energizing, and it'll open everything up. So anyway, that's deep breathing, and that in itself can be a practice. When it comes to these breath meditations, they're very safe. So you can do them for long periods of time, and you can make a whole vow, a whole sadhana out of this. And for instance, if you decided you really wanted to calm the mind, this is excellent meditation for aligning the three selves, because all kinds of stuff is going to come up to your awareness. And this, to me, this is why I like to use the whole breath technique, because then I don't have to get into that conflict that I hear a lot of people get into, that I get into, which is when people try to go to emptiness. I can't meditate because I can't empty my mind. I mean, of course you can't empty your mind. It's full of all kinds of unconscious crazy things bouncing up and down. That's the whole point. So don't try to empty your mind. But when I do the whole breath, I do get that sensation of just going into emptiness, and I don't have to work at it. But it will align all of the three selves, and so you can try out different things. You can just breathe deeply in and out through the nose, and that will keep you more conscious. You won't go into trance as easily, but that will keep you more conscious, and you can listen to your thoughts. And here's the idea behind listening to your thoughts. You hear about this as well. The thought comes up and you let it go away. And a lot of people do this, and for me it sounds like denial. Now, there are some people that do this really well and they like doing it, so I'm not trying to talk you out of it. I'm not one of those people. My head is always going, always racing. So for me, if I want to use a method like that, then what I do is I let the thoughts come up and the feelings come up, and I don't just let them float away or try and push them out of my head. I feel them. What meditation does is it allows you to have your feelings and have your thoughts without taking actions on them. And that's what true meditation is. That's what the true meditative mind is. And the whole point of this kind of meditation is so that when you're out in the world and you're doing whatever and you start to get stimulated into your negative crap, you get jealous, you get angry, you get impatient, you get judgmental, you get fearful, whatever, you get anxious, then you learn to have that feeling, and then you just immediately begin breathing. If you're talking with somebody or arguing with somebody or whatever, something's going on, you can go into a state where you're breathing, deeply and listening to them and listening to your own craziness. And so it gives you a better ability to be aware of when you're not rational. And it will also give you the ability to act instinctively as well. That's one of the things that came, especially with spirit fighting, that it gave me that, and I remember once I was, I can remember years and years ago, this is around the time that I was starting to learn spirit fighting, and in different parts of LA, you go up to the ATM and there'd be homeless people or, somebody not so friendly waiting around, and, they'd sort of hang out behind you. And I remember I would do it and I would be like angry, like, blah, blah, blah. And I was doing some spirit fighting once, for a while, and I was feeling the energy, and I went to go get the money out of the ATM. And my body just instinctively turned me around and said, "Why are you standing behind me? It's making me really uncomfortable." And the person was, because people, we don't do that. I didn't get mad at him. I didn't scream at him. I didn't threaten him. I just told him how he was making me feel. And I was really direct about it. And that just sort of shocked him. And I think the energy was as much as anything else. So we'll not only give you the ability to have your space when you know that you're not, you're stimulated in your unconscious whatever, and that, to yell and scream or call that person names or to do whatever it is that your unconscious mind is trying to force you into doing in the moment. You'll have the ability to stop and go, okay, I have all these feelings and it's all right, and I'm just going to breathe through it and I'm going to be rational about it. So we want to have that that balance where we're not reacting to things, just out of reflex action, acting out of our fears and anxieties and selfishness and whatever. But at the same time, we want to be able to react spontaneously when it's important. When we need to protect our boundaries, or when we need to be able to say something to someone and be direct with our feelings, we want to have that balance there. So this is what meditation is all about. It's not about achieving emptiness and going into it's not about that. That's denial. It really bugs me when I hear that. Or else I should meditate more on it. But that's not what we're trying to achieve here. So anyways, the default method is deep breathing. Experiment with it. I've given you two or three different techniques to use, and this is great. Again, let's say you've done your ritual and your mantra, or you've done your qigong, or you've done your rune work, and you want to ground yourself. You can just put your hands right over left, interlock the thumbs right over left and put it over your navel and feel the warmth of your hands, and just use one of those breath techniques, either just in and out deeply through the nose, focusing on the navel, or inhaling through the nose and doing the Hul breath. And that again is just a default method. If in doubt, just go with that. That is a great. And if you want to really get aligned, make a practice out of it and do it for an hour a day. And do it every day for 40 days. Do 1 hour of deep breathing a day for 40 days. And you can ask whatever deities you're working with, here's what I want out of this. Okay? But these are basic things that real shamans and yogis and Taoists and all that, this is what they do. Anyway, so there's that. I could go on and on about that, but I won't. So the first method is deep breathing. Again, my apologies if this is just too pixelated, but let's take a look at number 2. Okay, number 2 is a really great method, and it's called alternate nostril breathing. This is something I teach. If you go to chakras.thunderwizard.com, there's a DVD there, and I teach, I think, varying methods of this, and I think I do it in connection to the Gayatri mantra, which is as far as I know, it is the oldest mantra that has been chanted more than any other mantra in existence, and it's chanted by both Buddhists and Hindus as well, and it goes back thousands of years, and it's the mantra for the feminine aspect of the moon. The feminine aspect of the sun, which of course is the soul. And there's a whole breath technique to open up all the chakras as well. But if you're interested in that, you can go get that DVD. This alternate nostril breathing method is a really powerful method, and I've just been shown that again with somebody who I suggested this to, and they had an extremely powerful experience. And and I'm grateful for them sharing their feedback, because some of these real simple techniques that I take for granted now are incredibly powerful, and they're incredibly balancing and healing. Now, this alternate nostril breathing technique, what it will do is it's going to balance the two hemispheres of the brain. And so what ends up happening is, if we are in conflict with ourselves on an emotional level, we will also be, the two sides of our brain won't be communicating. Because we have one side that's there to protect us, which is our left hemisphere, which is connected to the right nostril, by the way. So they're alternate, also they connect to alternate sides of the head. So the right nostril connects to the left side of the brain, the logical side of the brain, the intellect. This is the side of your brain that protects you. This is the side of your brain that can come up with arguments. Have you ever argued with people that are just, they're so annoying because they're able to just get in there and intellectualize everything, and they're always looking to win the argument with some intellectualized, nonsensical something. They're usually pretty smart people. But that's because they're not connecting to their feelings, and they're actually using that side of their brain to protect themselves. I know, because I do it myself. It takes one to know it. I know exactly what that's like, because I'm a master at that myself. I'm the last person you want to get into an argument with. I will out-intellectualize you into whatever. But that's not a fulfilling way to live. Fulfilling way to live is to be able to operate from your emotions. So alternate nostril breathing will balance both the right and the left. So the right side of the brain, which is connected to the left nostril, is the feminine side, the side that the side that feels, the side that sees, empathically connects to other people. This is what you want. You want to be able to emotionally have empathy for others. That's what the difference between serial killers and normal people is, that normal people have an understanding that if they go and harm somebody physically, that it's going to hurt them, and they can feel for them. And so serial killers don't. They don't identify with others. Everybody's an object. That's what I don't, when I hear people asking about, are there bots? These people who are into the, whatever, the some of these matrix ideas, and they ask, are there bots out there? No, everybody's a human being, regardless of how horrible they are. Hitler, everybody else, they're human beings. And, having empathy for everybody is an important sign of being human. No matter how horrible somebody is, we don't have to like them. We don't even have to have them in our lives. We don't have to, we can definitely put them away in prison or wherever. They deserve whatever they get, but, they're human beings. And so we can have compassion for them. And even more so than that, we can go to be able to see ourselves in them. And that's the true sign. That's one of the great things that I learned from acting, which was, for instance, if I were to play the character of Hitler, I wouldn't go in and portray what people think. What is Hitler? Oh, he's this horrible monster. Well, he was. But if I were to play him, I wouldn't do that. I would want to tap into his emotional needs, why he felt he needed to do those things that he did. Because in his mind, if he were able to sit down and be honest with you, he would probably burst out into tears and tell you why he needed to do what he did, and why, these people frightened him, and why he needed, and if you look back, on Hitler, actually, some people think that he walked in on his mother having an affair with a Jewish guy, and so that's what started his whole hatred of Jewish people. It's because he saw his mom, sexually with somebody that wasn't his father, and he decided, all Jewish people, and went on and on and on. If he were to be able to get those emotions out and cry and say how horrible it was and how sad he was and how angry he was and how betrayed he felt and whatever other weird Oedipal things may have come up for him, then he probably wouldn't have done the things that he did. So that's why it's important. We have to be able to empathize with the people that we hate, the people that we despise, the people that we judge. We have to be able to see ourselves in them. At the very least, have empathy for them. So this is one of those techniques that helps you to connect to yourself emotionally and gets you out of living in that protective sphere of the intellect. The intellect is about protecting you. It's one of its main functions is to protect you. That's why it picks things apart. Intellect means to pick apart from among. So to be able to say, yeah, the stove is over there, or, like that, and the fire is hot. If I touch the fire, I'll burn myself. I should stay away from that. The intellect separates you. That person over there looks really angry and is frightening me. I should stay away from that person. That's your intellect protecting you. So we use our intellect to protect us in ways that aren't helpful, and when we are dependent, when we're so afraid that we use our intellect to separate ourselves from our frightening feelings, then that's when we are out of balance, and not only are we out of balance with ourselves, but we will be out of balance with others as well. So in order to help with that, we have this technique as well. Besides doing all these wonderful things I just mentioned, it does fabulous things for us energetically. Because, here's the thing about emotions, is that emotions is energy. Energy in motion. That's a cute little phrase. Emotions are energy in motion, and they really are. They are life force energy. And so the more that we can integrate ourselves emotionally, the more life force energy, the more RAM we will have on our hard drive, the more space we'll have on our hard drive, our lower self. So our lower self is very much like a computer. If it's fragmented, or if there's not enough RAM, or if there's not enough hard drive space, then we can't, our computer runs really efficiently and really slowly. Same is true for us. This computer up here functions really poorly when we are not emotionally integrated. So when those emotions are running around, especially if we're pushing those feelings down and we're trying to avoid our anger or our fear or our anxiety or whatever it is, then that's a huge amount of energy. There's every now and then, I like to have on my computer, I like to have a bunch of different windows that are always open. Pages that I always go to especially when I'm doing astrology readings. I bounce back and forth. That's why those of you who've done it, I prefer to do it on the phone, because then I can look at my iPad and I can look at my computer, and there's all these different pages that I can go to. But there's one that comes up that I think it's my Gmail page that comes up and says this page was refreshed because it was using a lot of energy. And that's a really good example. That's what happens, is like when we have these unresolved emotions, anger, fear, go through the list of them all. When we got them pushed down like that, that means that our hard drive is taken up with a lot of space, and our RAM is constantly being used to keep those emotions in check, because it's either trying to keep us from reacting from them, like blowing up, or just trying to keep them from coming into conscious awareness, because for whatever reason you've decided it's too painful to deal with. So this kind of breath work will help balance all of that. So this is how it's done. It's real simple. You can just simply take one hand, and some people get real stickler about the technique, but it doesn't really matter all that much. So on the inhale, here's the default method. The inhale is to close the right nostril and inhale through the left. And then close the right and close the left and exhale through the right. Keep doing that. Inhale through the left. Exhale through the right. Now you can see I got these tiny little nostrils, so there's always one nostril that's open. You may feel this, like if you, like me, you like to sleep on your side. I like to sleep on my side, and I think I sleep on my left side because I like breathing through my right nostril when I'm sleeping. But if you change over and you switch and you sleep on your other side, soon the other one will open. But what happens when you're going through the day is one of these sides is open, and then there's a brief period when they're both open, and that's supposed to be a powerful time where you can breathe deeply through both nostrils. Anyway, you don't have to get all hung up on that. So again, this is why it's good to have things like a neti pot, so you can clean out your nostrils, so that even when one side is closed and one is open, you can still breathe through both nostrils. So that right there is called nadi cleansing, and that is a really powerful method. There's all kinds of different ways to do that. You can do it in through the left, out through the right, and then in through the right, out through the left, and back and forth. Or you can do, right and left, all that. But just stick with that, because that's, we inhale through our left, which is our feminine side. Our feminine side takes things in. That's going to connect us to our emotions. We exhale out the right, which is our right side, our defensive side, our protective side. And what will end up happening is that the right side of the brain, when you use the left side of the body, the right side of the brain will then be able to have energy go into it so it can process emotions better. And then when you exhale out the right, then the protective side is releasing. So it'll release the emotions it's trying to keep at bay. And as I've seen recently, you might have really powerful experiences with that. You might have all kinds of crazy powerful emotions come up. It's okay, don't worry about it. What's important to understand is that your emotions won't destroy you. They won't kill you. Your fear, your anger, your love, your vulnerability, your sadness, your happiness. Listen, people are afraid of positive feelings too. People try and push love out. They try and push happiness out because it's too overwhelming. It's too frightening. It makes them feel too vulnerable. They don't know what to do with it. So just have them. Have the feelings and let them come out. And if you do that meditation, especially, you can try with 3 minutes. Try for just 3 minutes and see if something happens. If nothing happens, try for 7 minutes. If that doesn't work, try for 11 minutes. But if you can get to the place where you can do that for like a half an hour, let's just say. Half an hour, maybe an hour, if you're really, really feeling brave. But again, the important thing is to be consistent. It doesn't mean anything if you do it for 2 hours and then don't do it again for another 6 months. It won't mean anything. What's important is that you do it every day. So you can make this part of your mantra routine. You can make this part of your Qigong routine, that when you're done doing your Qigong, you can sit down and do any of these meditations I'm saying, but you can do the breath meditation, the alternate nostril breath meditation. And it will allow you to not only process life force energy, because anytime you breathe deeply for a long period, you are bringing lots of energy into your body. It will do that, but it will also help you to be more able to help you get into that meditative state. So let's talk about the effect of what breath does on you. So if you haven't done a lot of breath meditation before, then one of the things that's going to happen, regardless of whatever technique you use that I'm going to share with you, you're going to feel tingling in your body. You may feel kind of woozy. You may feel like you're going to pass out. That's all normal. It just means that a lot of oxygen is going to your brain. You won't pass out. You may feel like it. Whoa, I'm really dizzy. But once your body adjusts to it, you'll be fine. So that will probably happen. Again, as I said, some emotional things may come up. You may start to feel things in your body. Sensations in your nerves. That's okay too. You might, whatever, if it's pleasant or unpleasant, just breathe through it. Breath is really your friend. Breath is, without it, of course, we would die. But it really is our best friend. I mean, it's the one thing you can't go without doing. I mean, you can go without drinking water for days. You can go without sleeping for a while. You can go without eating food for a long time. But you can't go without breathing for more than, what, a couple of minutes, and then you pass out and die. So, anyway, so I'm getting off topic. So that's alternate nostril breathing. Again, that is a fundamental practice that yogis do. And one of the things they'll do is they will practice that for a half an hour or an hour or 2 hours a day for 40 days. And again, if you decide you want to do that, trust me, you will transform big time. Your body will clean out. Your body will detoxify itself. Your brain will balance itself. You'll balance yourself emotionally. Your energy will go through the roof. Your three selves will connect. All that stuff will happen. So there's technique number 2. So let's take a look and see what technique number 3 is. Okay, number 3 is left nostril, and then it says calming. So this is, again, this is why the previous one is a default one, because if you do the inhale left, exhale right, you're pretty much taking care of everything. But if you really want to get specific, let's say you've got, and I've gone through this a lot, let's say you can't sleep because something is just really bothering you. You know, you're really upset, you're really angry at somebody, or you really hurt, somebody really hurt your feelings, or you did something stupid. This is me. I've said something stupid, or, got into a fight with somebody and then really regretted it and felt like, oh my gosh, that person's going to hate me. And I can't sleep because my ego just won't leave me alone. Well, then what you do is you do this method, which is just take your thumb or your finger, it doesn't matter which, and block off your right nostril and just inhale through the left. Inhale and exhale through the left. Just keep going like that. What will happen is that will calm you. That will calm you emotionally. It will help you to get objectivity on your emotions, because again, the left side is the right side of the brain, the emotional side. And as I'm saying it, there's a little kid out there playing, making noises. He's tapping into that feeling. So if you have that feeling and you need to get it out, that's one way to do it, is to sit down and to breathe in and out through the left nostril. And again, breathe as deeply as you can. Breathing in deeply and exhaling deeply, in deeply, exhaling deeply. And you will find that you'll start to relax, you'll get calm, you'll get into the right side of the brain. The right side of the brain sees things holographically. You'll be able to see the other person's perspective. If it's you're having a problem with somebody, you'll be able to see their perspective, or you'll be able to give yourself a break and just go, yeah, you know what, whatever, I wasn't in my right, my rational mind at the moment, and that's okay, I'm human. And you'll be able to forgive yourself and give yourself a break. Maybe some emotions will come up and you'll cry. That's good. You'll be experiencing them and releasing them, and you'll find that the end result is that you'll have a more calming side. The right side is said to be the sun, and the left side is said to be the moon. And we talk about that as well, that the moon is the reflection of the spirit. And the right side is the sun, so it connects you to your drive, your soul, like the soul purpose, the thing that makes you want to achieve something in this life. It gives you energy. So that's the left side. And you can, again, my suggestion is to do it long and deep. Inhaling deeply and exhaling deeply. That's the next technique. I don't even remember what number we're on. So let's see what the next technique is here on the list. Okay, so the fourth technique is the right nostril, and it's energizing. So if the left side calms you, the right side will energize you. So this is a great one. Let's say you're trying to get off caffeine. I did. It was probably the most difficult thing. I mean, I've done everything. I smoked cigarettes. I did drugs. I drank. I did the whole thing. And caffeine. I couldn't live without my coffee. I had a grinder and I had my coffee machine, and I was all into going to the specialty coffee store and getting my specialty. I was all into my caffeine. But that was one of the hardest things to quit. But one of the things you can do when you get up in the morning and you're really tired, like me, if I sleep really well, waking up, especially if I've done a lot of energy work the night before, getting out of bed is, I just don't want to get out of bed. So this is a technique that you can use instead of your morning coffee, and that is to block off the left nostril and breathe in and out through the right deeply. So you can see my right nostril is open right now, which is good for doing videos because I'm using the left side of my brain, which is, I can analyze all this stuff and all that. So that wakes you up. It gives you energy. It helps you think things through. So there are times when you don't want to think things through. You want to turn your intellect off and you breathe through your left nostril. There are times when you do want to be able to figure something out. Which pants should I wear? I just got back. I just bought myself a new surfboard, and I spent a bunch of time pulling out different surfboards and looking at them and figuring it out and typing in how much the volume is and how much I weigh and how long it is and which one should I get. So you're waking up in the morning. You have to figure out which pair of pants you need to wear, or what color blouse you're going to wear, and that's a big deal. You got to figure out which is the best one. So you block off the left nostril and breathe in and out through the right, and that'll get you awake. It'll energize you, and it will empower you. In fact, you can do that again for long periods of time as well. And that will do all kinds of things. All these breath techniques, if you decide to make vows out of them and do them for like a half an hour a day, every day for 40 days, they will change you on fundamental levels. Again, playing with the right side of the nose and the left side. My suggestion again is to if you want to do really a long period one, I would do the alternate. But these are just little tips I'm giving you on how each of the nostrils and the sides of the two halves of the brain works. So let's move on to the next technique I have listed here. I think number 5. Okay, this is called Breath of Fire, and this is one, if you've ever done Kundalini Yoga before, the one by Yogi Bhajan. There's different kinds of Kundalini Yoga, but the one created by Yogi Bhajan there, then you're familiar with Breath of Fire. Breath of Fire is energizing and cleansing as well. It's balancing. And you can do Breath of Fire. I mean, they'd have you do Breath of Fire through the left and then do Breath of Fire out through the right, or, depending on what they were trying to accomplish and whatever yoga set they were doing. But for right now, I'll just teach you the basic one, which is to breathe in through both nostrils at the same time. Now, it's a fast-paced breath, and you do want to breathe from the navel. It's not complete. It's not a complete breath, meaning you're not completely filling your lungs and exhaling your lungs as fast as you can. I think that's a different kind of breath. It's, I would say it feels like, maybe trying to fill your lungs 2/3 of the way in each time and to breathe fast. But, it's not getting stuck up here in the chest. You are using the diaphragm. You are using the navel center. So it's been a long time since I've done Breath of Fire, but let me see if I can approximate it here. So it's going in and out fairly quickly. So Okay, so again, it looks like I'm using my chest, but I'm not. I'm not bouncing up and down from my chest. I'm using my navel center. So it may take a little while. Some people, it's kind of hard to do it, and people, especially when you start going for long periods of time, people tense up, and so you're supposed to stay relaxed as you do it. And it's kind of advanced. If it's difficult for you, please don't feel the need to master it. If done wrong, if you're tense and you do it wrong, it's really not all that helpful for you. But if you can get to a place where you can do it for a long period of time and stay relaxed, it can be pretty powerful. And for that one, you don't need to do it for long. For that one, you would want to go maybe 3 minutes, or maximum 7 minutes. Let's just keep it there, between 3 and 7 minutes. If you can do that for 7 minutes and stay relaxed, you'll get a lot out of it. In fact, that's the only way to keep doing it. After you've done it for 10 or 20 seconds, if you're tense, you're just going to get even tired. But if you relax into it, then you'll actually get more breath in and out. So in order for me to get that and enjoy it, I had to relax. And I guess it's been a while since I've done it, but I did it for so many years that my body instinctively knows how to do it. And it actually is very relaxing, because it's one of those things that once you do it and you have to relax to do it, then you get into this place of dynamic relaxation. I don't know how else to explain it. But that will definitely wake you up, and that will definitely energize you, and it will do all kinds of things for you. Again, you may feel like you're going to pass out. All that means is that your body, needs to, get used to the energy and balance itself and maybe cleanse itself. So it's a very powerful and cleansing breath. And unless you've got a teacher that can sit down with you and show you how to do it, my suggestion would be to make sure you follow the rules. Breathe deeply from your diaphragm. And as you can see, I start slow. I don't go right into it. You can see it takes me a couple of breaths to gauge, how much energy is going in, and then I speed that up. That was how I would suggest you do it as well. Let me try it again. Okay, so that's breath of fire. That's a really great. That'll wake you up, and it'll do all kinds of great things for you. So it's very cleansing, it's very purifying, and it's a great technique. And again, if you choose to do that and make that into a cleansing breath routine for yourself, and you want to use that in part of your meditations, I would say start with 3 minutes. And at first, probably 3 minutes is going to be a lot. You might even have to just do 1 minute. Start with as little as you need to, but 3 minutes is a good place to start at the beginning, and then move on up to 7 minutes. And I would say don't go past that unless you're working directly with a teacher, because it is a pretty powerful breath. So I don't want you to hurt yourselves. Okay, so let's see, what is the next breath technique that we have on our list here? Okay, so the next one I have there is sniffing, and then I have in parentheses trance-inducing. So this is another thing I learned from Yogi Bhajan's Kundalini Yoga, and in fact they do that same kind of thing, alternate nostrils, but they do different breath signatures, sniffing, and all that. I won't get into that. Maybe we'll do an advanced one and I'll get into that. I don't know if I may have talked about this before earlier on. If I'm repeating myself, my apologies, but it's always good to go back to the basics. So sniffing is a good one. This one I've used again for getting to sleep. As you can tell, there were periods in my life where I had a hard time getting to sleep. My brain just wouldn't shut off. And so for this one, one that I recommend is to do a signature of 8 sniffs. And so it's real simple. You want to fill your lungs completely, but instead of just inhaling one time, you take 8 sniffs. and you breathe in 8 times. So let's see if I can do it. And then you exhale out 8 sniffs. So a good way to play around with that, first just play around with it and be able to figure out, because if you do too much in the beginning, then at the end you're barely getting any out. So it's kind of fun to learn how to get your entire lungs filled with those 8 sniffs, and making sure that you get it all out in the 8 exhales. So just do that. You can do that. That is that, in my experience, when I do that one, that will put me into a trance state as well. It's not the same as the Hool breath. The Hool breath, is sort of like just kind of slipping out of my body. This one will sort of give me like this head rushy sort of feeling, like I'm just kind of stoned, and it puts me in a really comfortable trance-like kind of stony feeling state. But one exercise you can do is to imagine sitting in the middle of the rune wheel, or in the middle of the thunder wheel, right? And in your mind, imagine sniffing energy. You don't have to move; you can stay in one spot. But this is a good meditation because it gives you an awareness of your whole body, and it's one way to bring in the thunder wheel into your essence. Like I said, on an unconscious level and sometimes consciously, I'm aware where all of the 8 directions are. And that is something I gained through spirit fighting, because you're always facing what they call the door. So you might be punching in one door and facing in another, but you were well aware of where all the 8 doors were at all times. So that did a lot for me, obviously, for martial arts, because you're aware, when if somebody's behind you or around you, you're ready to strike in any of the doors at any time, or multiple doors at the same time. So we can use that same thing in our meditations, and I think I've done this where, I just do the 8 sniffs, and I'll just inhale in my mind, pulling energy from each one of the areas. So, you could do it by facing north or east. Those are the two. East is the default. That's why the word north, as you know, if you've heard me talk about it, comes from the word for left and under. So that means that when somebody says north, they're automatically aligning themselves to the east, because that's the only direction you can possibly face where north is left, if you're facing east. So people say go left, meaning left of the rising sun. So facing east is good. You can also face north, because that's a good way to orient yourself as well. And then you can take a sniff, inhaling, imagining each one of the directions, sending energy from each one of the sides, and that's a great meditation too. What we used to do is we used to use little mantras. So, again, you start playing around with mantras, and you're playing around with numbers of syllables, that has an effect. But if you want to, you can play around with that. So let me see. I'm trying to think if there's a deity that has 8 syllables. So there's a mantra that, let's say if I did the mantra Om Anjaneyaya Nama, that has 8 syllables. Om Anjaneyaya Nama. That has 8 syllables. 8 is the number of transformation, so just be aware of that. When you sniff in 8, you are asking for transformation, because you're asking for all of the 8 directions to come in at once, and that's going to be a lot of energy, and it'll transform you. So if I wanted to use a mantra, I could then in my mind with each sniff be doing each syllable. Om Anjaneyaya Nama. And then that's a great way to also do a mantra with a breath. So let me just do it here. And then you do it on the exhale. Okay? So that's another way to do a mantra on a mental level, as well as using a breath signature. And again, I'm just playing around with just a little bit, and I'm already feeling kind of stoned and buzzed and tingly. It's just a lot of fun. This is a great way to any one of these meditations, any one of these breath signatures. You can use these when you're doing your energy work. If you're doing the Thor's hammer, or if you're doing whatever, celestial qigong, and then, like, let's say before you want to do your mantra, or at the end of your practice, you want to really bring all of that energy into your body. Any one of these any one of these breath techniques is really good. What I used to do, because when you do, especially when you do like celestial qigong, you may kind of feel like you're out of breath. And you're really not out of breath. What's happening is that your aura is trying to expand to take in all of the energy. Whenever you're doing the movements or whatever it is that you're doing, your aura is working really hard to pull in life force energy. So if you kind of feel out of breath, then just breathe in super deep and hold it for 3 seconds. That will allow your aura to fill up. Now, when you do that, especially if you've been doing qigong or energy work, and you take in one of those deep breaths and you hold it for 3 seconds, you may feel like you're going to pass out. You're not. It's just your aura is just guzzling all of that energy. So it's a good sign. It's a very good sign. Of course, I don't want you to pass out, so make sure you're sitting down when you do this. But anyway, that's another technique I didn't put on there. So let me just double check to see, have we gone through all of the different steps here? Yeah, the sniffing. So I guess the 7th technique would be when you've done a lot of energy work, and or when you've done a lot of breath work. Let's say you do breath of fire for 7 minutes, right? You've been doing breath of fire or any one of these. Doesn't matter which one it is. Do it for a long period of time. At the end, your aura is going to be expanding to accommodate all of the life force energy. And so it's good to take 3 deep breaths. So you'll take a deep breath in and hold it for like 3 seconds. And do that 3 times. Second one. And then a third one. So you'll feel, if you've done a lot of energy work or a lot of breath work before that, and you do that, after you do those 3 breaths, you will, if you're not ready to lie down and sleep, then I can't help you. But you'll feel, your body will feel like, like you've just had a good meal. Your aura will feel like it's very satisfied and very happy. Listen, there's all kinds of other things that we can do, holding the breath out, inhaling and then holding it and doing 8 seconds in your mind of a mantra, and then exhaling it. There's just all different ways you can do it, but again, I don't recommend experimenting with that unless you've got some some expertise, some experience in it, or you're working with a teacher. Otherwise, follow my suggestions, because these are plenty powerful. You don't need anything more powerful than what I'm suggesting here. So anyway, there's that. I hope I explained that well, and this was just for fun. I thought it was good to get back into how to empower yourself, just getting back into a technique and not doing all the talking anymore. So if you are doing a mantra or a sadhana, or if you're doing qigong or both, by the way, just let me get that out of the way. One of the most powerful ways to use the information that I give is to do a qigong routine, whether that's one that you get off of the YouTube channel, or if you're getting it off of Celestial Qigong. When you're done with your qigong, before you ground, do one of these breath meditations. Really, you don't have to do anything fancy. Just do like the Hul breath for 5 or 10 minutes, or even 3 minutes. Do the alternate nostril breathing, or just doing deep breathing. Do it for 3 minutes. And you'll see what I mean. These things all come together. Now, if you want to do it with your mantra, then what I would do is I would do the Qigong first, then maybe just breathe long and deep for just 30 seconds or a minute or however long, and then go into your mantra. Do your mantra and ritual. Then when you're done with that, then do one of the breaths that will pull all of the energy in and hold it and bring it in, and then do some deep breathing as you ground, putting your hands over your navel and just breathing long and deep and grounding it. You're going to see that stuff come together. It's incredibly powerful. It's especially powerful if you do that with an intention. So if you're looking to become aware of what your soul intention is, or if you have become aware of what your soul intention is, it's at that point that you just imagine and you intend it, because now you've got all of this energy. You've opened up all three of yourselves. Your brain is working, your aura is working, you've got deities working with you, and you can just then intend your reality. And if you do that every day, I just got chills thinking about it, there's really, the universe has to obey you. It has to manifest it for you. So anyway, so those are some thoughts I have about breath techniques and breath meditation. Feel free to ask questions if you have any, and maybe as time goes on we'll go a little bit deeper and do some more advanced stuff connecting to this. So that's it for now, my friends. Thank you so much again, and I shall be with you again very soon. Take care.